Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. So for people who do not know who George Soros is, he's considered to be one of the legendary investors in the world. His hedge fund made approximately 20% return every single year for a period of 40 years. That in simple terms means that he doubled his money every 3.5 years. So these are massive, massive returns. His critics have termed him as master manipulator of the global order. He has destabilized currencies. He has destabilized economies. He has destabilized governments. So Mr. George Soros is a highly polarizing figure when it comes to global governance, global politics, global economics, and the world of investing. He has made certain statements against the sitting Prime Minister of India and the Adani Group. Do we need to take it seriously? Should we dismiss it? How is it that we should absorb this commentary? I will try my level best to present all the details, facts, show you counter arguments, etc., so that you are able to absorb the issue. But people always try to paint everything with political colors, and some people will have already disliked the video because I picked up this topic to make. So please try to understand this topic rationally. That is my humble request. And at the outset, let me present my personal viewpoint that I do not think that any global commentator should be making personal attacks against a sitting Prime Minister of India. But on the flip side, if a global commentator is making certain arguments against a company, he or she is completely entitled to do it. This is my personal opinion. You can agree, disagree with. Now, on the flip side, many of you might be worrying that, you know what, will this issue derail the Indian stock market? We will have a conversation around it. But during such times, or rather during any time, it makes sense to be diversified. So from that perspective, one of my portfolio building strategy is that I invest roughly 20% of my stock investing portfolio in the US market. How do I do it? I do it by using Vested, which is a wonderful app to invest your money in the US market, who are the sponsors of today's video. So do check out the links. I'm attaching some of my Vest, which shows my portfolio in the US market. US market has started to give certain recovery, so you can definitely consider checking it out. And if it fits your portfolio, you can definitely consider building some positions in the US market. So let us discuss this highly complicated topic about George Soros, what he has said, what will be the political, economic, stock market repercussions of this entire issue. So let's go point by point. And point number one is that how has Mr. George Soros made his money? So here it's very simple that he's a trader investor. He has built a hedge fund, which he has been running for last several decades. It is one of the most successful hedge funds out there. He manages the money of really wealthy people. Therefore, it is called as hedge fund. So hedge funds basically are mutual funds for rich people. So that is what he does. He has been fairly successful in terms of making really big bets and come out on the winning side. So as I stated earlier, that his CAGR on that hedge fund for 40 years straight was roughly around 20%. So this is mind-boggling returns for such a long period of time. So no doubt he has been a very wealthy investor. He has been a very successful investor. He has made a lot of money for his clients. One of the biggest bets that people talk about when they talk about Mr. George Soros was his bet against the British pound. So what exactly happened there? And there is a lot of interesting finance around it. So I'll quickly explain that topic. It will help you understand the psyche with which he operates. So Mr. George Soros shorted the Great Britain pound and he made in the process £1 billion profit in a single day. And over a period of 1 month, he made a gain of roughly 1.5 billion pounds. So how exactly did he do it? While the mechanism is really complicated, but let me help you understand that whether this was an evil move that he made or was this a legitimate sort of practice that he incorporated and made money. Because both versions of the story are presented. Now I understand a little bit of finance, so I will try to explain it from a finance viewpoint. So basically the mechanism starts much before 1990s, and during that time in Europe there was something called as ERM. Now this was a process or a currency stabilization mechanism. Now what was the entire objective of this? For example, you might have heard that there is a currency called as euro. Now the entire Europe, before adopting euro as a common standard, so to say, each country used to have different types of currencies. So when they decided that, you know what, we are going to move to this particular currency called as euro, there would have been exchange rate issues. Because if let's say Germany is trying to move to euro, their set of standards might be very different. Their exchange rate might be very different from Britain or France, etc., etc. So this mechanism was adopted temporarily called as ERM. Now England or Great Britain during that time, somewhere around late 80s, decided to join this ERM mechanism fairly late. Why? Because there were a lot of issues, a lot of internal political conflicts that were happening, a lot of macroeconomic related issues that were happening with the British economy. And in this entire turmoil, the interest rate in UK was roughly 13%. So the interest rates were also very high. And also the inflation during that time in Great Britain was fairly high. So this exhibits the type of situation that is currently existed in the UK. Now, what the British government decided and Bank of England, which is the central bank of UK, decided that, you know what, we are not going to let our currency decline. For example, every year you might be noticing that the INR keeps going down in value compared to the US dollar. Why is that the case? Because in India, the interest rates are higher than that of the US, and also the inflation in India, generally speaking, are higher. Then our government decides that, you know what, we are going to let the free market play out, and therefore you see that the INR keeps falling in value compared to the US dollar. If you like this fact and if you like these type of economic explanation, I also run a course on Wisdom Hatch. You can definitely go and check it out. I explain a lot of macroeconomics, stock market related topics, how to create wealth. So you can definitely check it out. We have an exclusive community also where I keep talking about my stock picks, where people discuss and have internal conversations on the topic of investing. So, okay, so over to this topic. So here what happened was that the UK decided that, you know what, irrespective of this problem, that we are not going to let the UK pound go down. Now, Mr. George Soros is a student of economics. He understands how this entire mechanism plays out. He said that, you know what, you can probably play out this mechanism for a little bit, that you can't let your currency slide. You can throw in money, whatever you want to do, you do it. But eventually the free market forces will take over and you will have to devalue your currency at certain point in time. So what he did was that he short sold the British pound. Short selling simply means that he sold the British pound somewhere here, and when the British pound fell to somewhere here, he bought it from the market and returned the money to the borrowers. Now, how this mechanism exactly plays out, you don't need to worry about that. This usually happens in the futures and options market. Recently, Hindenburg came out with the report and they were a short seller in the Adani stocks. That is what has been outlined. And Mr. George Soros, by understanding macroeconomics, was able to make money. Now, people have given it a very different color, that, you know what, he's a market manipulator. He has derailed the British pound on his own will and fancies, etc., etc. Now we can give it a political color, however we want to interpret it, but the economics do not lie, the numbers do not lie, the facts do not lie. So this is the entire issue that had happened with Great British Pound. Same arguments have been made that Mr. George Soros has derailed the Thai economy because he shorted Thai baht. Same argument were made when he shorted the Japanese yen, that okay, he is trying to destabilize the economy. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know whether he has some internal mechanics. Now, a lot of people have money, but it is not as if that they can just willy-nilly use their money and pour it in any economy and destabilize it. Yes, they can only destabilize an economy if there is something fundamentally wrong with it. So this is the clear message that I'll leave you with. Now you decide whether he is a stock market manipulator, whether he destabilizes economy on his own, and whatever he is doing, he's actually putting his money behind it. So he's not just throwing faltu words. Now, point number two, that since he has made a lot of money doing these type of activities, where does he use this money? So Mr. Soros runs a non-profit organization called as Open Society Foundation. He's considered to be one of the most prominent philanthropists right now in the world. And over a course of last several years, he has deployed roughly $30 billion. I'm not saying million, I'm saying $1 billion. He has given $30 billion to charity. Most of this money has been routed through his own charity / foundation, which is called as Open Society Foundation. And in total, he has been able to deploy so far $15 billion of this committed wealth. So now comes two natural questions that, okay, he is giving money to his own charity. Is that right or wrong? And second is that if he's giving money to other charities, what type of charities does he give money to and why? So let us discuss these 2 points very, very quickly. So number one, giving money to your own charity is completely legal. A lot of people do that in the US, across India also. There is nothing wrong with it. What is the primary thought process behind it? It's very simple. For example, let's imagine that I become a billionaire and then I'll have two choices. One is that I give money and trust other non-profit organizations. Then are they going to do a good job? How will I track it, etc., etc. Second key thing is that I create my own foundation. I hire 50 people and I give money to that organization and they run it. So this way I get more control where the money is going. I get more oversight. Again, one can argue pro and con around it, but this is a simple mechanism that is adopted by a lot of rich people, including Mr. Bill Gates, who runs Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So this is question number one. Now comes question number two, that okay, if he's giving money to other charities, foundations, and even through his own foundation, then what are the topics or agendas he's working on? Now, over the course of several years, this foundation has given political donations. It has worked in the healthcare space. It has worked in the agriculture space. It has given grants to media organizations, etc., etc. So then comes a natural question that okay, is he trying to manage certain agendas? Is he trying to further his voice and political ambitions in the world? So the short answer there is yes. Now there is no point in sugarcoating it. People who are billionaires, they have their own agendas. They give political donations. Name one billionaire who is not giving political donations. Number two, all the rich billionaires have certain viewpoint in mind and they try to further those agendas by using media organizations, by giving money to non-profit organizations, etc., etc. And Mr. George Soros has also been doing the same. Now you can pick sides here that okay, that is completely wrong, completely right, etc., etc. He's probably a biased person. Yes, he's biased person. And so is every billionaire. They also give their money to further certain personal viewpoints that they have. And Mr. George Soros has also been doing something similar. Therefore, he has become a very polarizing figure. Now, what are the viewpoints that other people have expressed around these political donations? So let me show you some facts and data around it. The domestic criticism. So basically, he's a US citizen and he has been criticized by Mr. Donald Trump. Why? Because Mr. George Soros has actually supported the Democratic Party. So there are two parties in the US, or two major parties in the US. One is Democratic and one are Republicans. So Republicans held by Trump, so to say, and Democrats, Obama, Hillary Clinton, etc., etc. So Mr. George Soros is a supporter of the Democratic group. So of course, on the flip side, Republicans do not like him. A lot of criticism goes into that he's giving money to wrong side of charities, that is destabilizing the nation, etc., etc. Now then comes the next point that okay, this is the situation in the US. What about other countries? So let's go to his home country or his country of origination. So Mr. George Soros is Hungarian and he had to flee Hungary when he was very young because of the Nazi attack on Hungary, and he had to flee. He had to take asylum and refuge in the US. So there, the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban accuses Soros of plotting to overwhelm Hungary with Muslim immigrants in order to undermine its Christian heritage. Now, I will not get into the religious aspect of it. That becomes highly talked about. So basically, even the Hungarian Prime Minister is not very happy with Mr. George Soros. So what about the situation in India? Are Indians happy with Mr. George Soros? The answer depends which side of the spectrum you lie. Just to give some context, that Mr. George Soros Foundation has given a lot of money to Indian non-profit organizations. One of the biggest being the Amnesty International, whose operations were withheld, ED raid had happened, etc., etc. Now, a bunch of arguments can be made against for supporting Amnesty and disapproving of Amnesty's work. So I will leave that up to you. My job is not to analyze whether Amnesty is doing good work, bad work, should it have been banned, etc., etc. That is for you to decide. But Mr. George Soros has given money to organizations like Amnesty International and also to an organization called as Namati. So Namati is an organization which has been supported by a lot of pro-Congress people, economists like Mr. Amartya Sen, who is also critical of the current government. So this is the central viewpoint that I will leave you with, that the work that George Soros Foundation is doing, so to say, it ruffles feather with a lot of political establishments. So you will never get a clear-cut data that, you know what, is Mr. George Soros doing good work in India or bad work in India? So now comes point number 3, which is around counter arguments, because it is very easy to say that, you know what, this rich guy is sitting and he's putting his money behind non-profit organizations, and those non-profit organizations are doing some funny stuff across different countries. So is that right? Is that wrong? So I will not even pick the example of India here. I will simply pick the example of Hungary because there is established data there. So let me show you 2 data points here. So the first data point is regarding the law that Hungary passed, and it was called as Stop Soros Law. Now this law was supported by their Prime Minister called as Viktor Orban, whom I had spoken earlier, and this is the entire message that he has given. So he has stated that George Soros's money is coming in and it is trying to destabilize our nation. They are bringing in a lot of Muslim migrants, and that is type of destabilizing our country. So this is the simple message that he has given, and he has formulated some really harsh laws around it. You can go and read it out. I'll not give more commentary on it. Now, please go and read about who Mr. Viktor Orban is, and I will put one of his speeches in front of you. So Hungary's Viktor Orban condemned for pure Nazi speech. Now you'll say that, okay, newspaper hai sensationalized kar diya, etc., etc. So no, please go and look at the context, and these things are quoted verbatim. And this is precisely what he said, that Viktor Orban insisted that his country must maintain racial purity. This is why we have always fought. We are willing to mix with others, but we do not want to become people of mixed race. Now you derive your own interpretations out of it. Sitting in 2023, whether these type of statements are correct, incorrect, you are free to draw your own inferences. So, okay, we can delve deeper into the character assessment of Mr. George Soros, and we will not reach any conclusion here. So this is up to you to further investigate and draw your own conclusions. Let me move forward with our discussion and let me hit point number 4, which is around the statements that he has made on the current government and Mr. Gautam Adani. So this is the precise statement and I'm flashing this in front of you. So he has said that Modi and business tycoon Adani are close allies. Their fate is intertwined, he claimed. Adani is accused of stock manipulation and the stock collapse like a house of cards. Modi is silent on the subject, but he has to answer questions from foreign investors and in parliament. He did not offer any evidence for his claim. This will significantly weaken Modi's stranglehold on the federal government, etc., etc. Right? So, I mean, this is what he has said. Now, some things are true. Some things are absolutely vile, right? So there are things that I agree to. There are things that I do not agree to. I will leave you with 2 points, right? So the first point is that the fate of Mr. Modi and Adani ji is intertwined. Largely yes, and also no. Now, what do I mean by that? Very simple language that see, any political party, be it BJP, be it Congress, be it etc. party, they all work in conjunction with business people. And that is how it has always functioned. We would be extremely naive to believe otherwise, that you know what, politicians work in isolation and they are working on some idealistic principle. That is incorrect. I would hope that all of us would look at this situation rationally. I'm not even bothered whether this is in context of BJP, AAP, Congress, XYZ party. I'm not bothered with this. If you want to maintain distance between politicians and businessmen, just simple one step as proposed by Election Commission, that make cash donations less. And my suggestion here would be that in fact make cash donations go away. The moment you make cash donations go away and the political parties reveal their political funding, all the problems will be solved. So this is point 1. This is what I'll leave you with. Second key point is that Modi ji will have to answer from foreign investors. I don't think he will be doing it, and neither he is liable to answer it. The market itself will answer. For example, if there is a lot of opaqueness in the Indian market, if these type of issues comes up over and over again, it hurts the Indian investment story. So I am sure that the current government is very well aware of it. And I don't think that our Prime Minister needs to bother with it. The free market will take care of itself. Our government's job and hopefully our government's mandate is such that they will keep the free market free market. Now, third point, that from George Soros' side, is he targeting India? No, not specifically. He has targeted China. He has targeted Russia. He has targeted Japan. He has targeted a bunch of other countries. Right now, he is targeting Turkey, right? The Turkish Prime Minister. So he is not targeting like one political party. But to cut the long story short, this is a political thing, and now media houses will pick it up and they will give their own version of the story. I'm simply presenting all the facts so that you can independently assess this issue, because rationality is dying. That is the simple hope that I'm explaining this video with. Now comes point number 5, that what are the implications about this entire conspiracy on the stock market? Okay, so it really depends on how the Adani issue evolves from this point. Was Adani Group over leveraged? Yes. Was Adani stocks over leveraged? Yes. Was that the right thing? Absolutely not. No single entity should be given so much of free leeway in the market that, you know, kitna bhi loan utha lenge, etc., etc. That is something that I have been speaking for the last 6 months, not now. I was one of the first people to call the issue out, not because I have some personal animosity against the Adani Group. It is just a warning sign to retail investors, and I am hopeful that people who watch my videos, they would not have poured in crazy amount of money. And in the future also, please be careful about any high debt capital intensive business. Now, a related point here is, and many people are saying that, you know what, this is the start of another doomsday scenario in the Indian market. Now, this is not, because majority of the shorting that had happened for Adani stocks had already happened as per my understanding. Of course, I can be wrong, but even Mr. George Soros, if he would have shorted Adani, he would have already made money. Hindenburg would have made money. Bunch of other people who would have shorted Adani stock, they would have made money. So now comes the final point, that what is it that you should be doing as an investor in the Indian stock market right now? Now, please go and buy solid stocks. I will keep talking about some of the stocks that I'm buying. I keep sharing that on the member community. Right now, I'm very bullish on Nifty IT. I'll explain that on tomorrow's post on member community. Please do not be scared. Point number 2 is that Adani's story has played out quite aggressively. A lot of correction has already happened. Good news, the Indian market overall, Nifty 50, has not fallen to that extent. Can it fall to 17,000, 15,000? Maybe in the short term. But roughly 2 years of time correction in the market has happened. Time correction means that roughly for 2 years, stock market in India have given 0% gain. This is a fairly significant amount of time. So we are close to a rally. This is the viewpoint with which I am operating. Third and finally, please have a little bit of vision. You do not invest to make money in the short term. You need to understand that every rich person, every powerful person, Mr. George Soros has his agendas, Mr. Trump has his agendas, bunch of other rich, powerful people portray their agenda on the world or superimpose their agendas on the world. We need to work in our own interest. There is no point in discussing the politics around it. Politics will be taken care of by a lot of news channel. You simply need to understand what are great opportunities for you to buy that would allow you to make more money and gain more time independence, freedom independence, location independence. That is what you should worry about rather than getting entangled into the cobweb of politics. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, do press the like button and I will see you soon.